Today on All Things 80s, we've got the Star Wars Weekly. Welcome back to All Things 80s, and amongst the comics that my good friend Derek sent over from Scotland was this issue of the Star Wars Weekly, and I thought it would be a bit of fun to go ahead and take a look and see what it's all about. So here we have the Star Wars Weekly, and this is issue numbered 102. Now this came out on February 6, 1980, so all this material is pre-Empire Strikes Back. Now the asking price was 12p, which I think is kind of high for 1980, because if I recall, the comics I was buying back then, such as Dandy and Beano, were probably less than 10p. Now this one is entitled Luke and Leia in Mortal Danger, and this is obviously pre-Empire Strikes Back, and the cover does show Luke and Leia on the Death Star from the first movie. Now, as with most of these comics, it is a serialization, so I don't know what has gone on in previous weeks, which makes, trying to understand this pretty much impossible. Interestingly enough, no color, it's all black and white. And if I'm being honest, I'm not really sure what's going on here, and it doesn't look that interesting to me. And we have here what looks to be like a bit of a beast man. But it does continue next week with The Secret of the One, revealed in Showdown with the Magistrix. And I don't know why, but just seeing that word kind of put me in thoughts of Dominatrix. Don't ask me why. So that's it for the story part. We now have a feature on Carrie Fisher. And I was surprised to see that she's actually only 5 foot 1 inch. So she's just a tiny little thing, and she weighed 6 stone 11 pounds. That is very small. Anyway, it continues over, but interestingly it says next week it's a feature on Obi-Wan Kenobi. So this one didn't call it a feature on Princess Leia, so I'm not sure if the following week had an interview with Alec Guinness or just information on the character of Obi-Wan. Now sadly, despite this being called the Star Wars Weekly, that is it for Star Wars content, and we're not even at the halfway mark. So we're now into a storyline from Stan Lee called Deathlock the Demolisher, which is something that I am not familiar with, so I can't really comment on that. But what I will say is, this story goes on much longer than the actual Star Wars story. Quite a bit longer, actually. Which is rather interesting given that it is called the Star Wars Weekly. We now have some ads for Rampage magazine featuring the all-new X-Men and the Doctor Who Weekly, which I remember getting once or twice. I was never what you would call a huge Doctor Who fan, but I did enjoy the show. We now have another story, which is The Tales of the Watcher. And this one runs for a few more pages, and that is it. We now have an advert for the wonderful Airfix models, which I loved building as a child. And on the back, we have some more ads for some more comics. So we've got the Marvel Superheroes, Starburst, the Savage Sword of Conan, and Rampage magazine presenting the Hulk. The Hulk. Now, for this to be called the Star Wars Weekly, I think is borderline false advertising, because let's be honest, there was much more non-Star Wars content than there was Star Wars content, and given that I was somewhat of a gullible child, if I bought this, I was buying it expecting it to be cover-to-cover Star Wars content, and as that is not the case, I probably would have been pretty unhappy getting this as a kid. But it is what it is, and that was a look at the Star Wars Weekly. So, as you can see, to call that the Star Wars Weekly was a bit of a stretch. Nevertheless, for back in its time, it was a pretty good comic, I'm sure. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. Special thanks goes out to the patrons. Please like, please subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos from All Things 80s.